Breaking news, homicide detectives are on the scene of a deadly shooting in Wilkinsburg. We're told a woman was shot there just a short time ago. It happened on Laketon Road.
She had no idea what was coming. Keianu Davis was a hardworking mother, a woman with dreams, a woman who was just trying to make life better for her children. But as she went about her day, someone she trusted was plotting against her. It was a normal shift at Dollar General. Customers came and went. The register beeped. Small talk filled the air. At some point, Keianu's grandmother stopped by, just for a moment, to drop off something very important. Something Keianu had made plans for. But there was one thing she didn't plan for: the fact that someone was watching. Someone who smiled in her face every day, who stood just a few feet away as she tucked that something away. And in that moment, a decision was made. One that would end her life. As she walked home that evening, she had no reason to be afraid. No reason to look over her shoulder. But just minutes after leaving work, Keianu was gone. Shot in the street. Her purse ripped from her hands. A robbery? Maybe. But as the truth unraveled, it became clear this wasn't just about money. It was something far worse. This was a setup. A betrayal so cruel, it's almost unthinkable. And the person behind it was someone Keianu thought she could trust. Keianu Lynette Davis was a 27-year-old mother of two, doing everything she could to give her children the life they deserved. She juggled 2 jobs, pushing through long hours with little rest, all for the sake of 2 beautiful daughters. One of those jobs was at the Dollar General in Wilkinsburg, Pennsylvania, a small store where she spent her shift stocking shelves, running the register, and chatting with customers. At work, Keianu was well-liked. She wasn't the loudest person in the room, but she had a way of making people feel comfortable. She worked alongside a new hire, 21-year-old Leah Whitley, who had just started the day before. Leah was friendly, talkative, and seemed easy to get along with. They weren't close friends, but they shared the kind of casual conversations that made the hours pass by a little faster. But Keianu's mind wasn't just on work that day. She had big plans. She had just received her tax refund, a hard-earned $3,000 that meant the world to her. For some, it might have just been a check, but for Keianu, it was a step toward a better future. She had her eye on a car, something that would finally give her the freedom to get to work without relying on others. And she was looking forward to something even more important: her daughter Alavia's 3rd birthday.
Mommy.
She wanted to make it special. She wanted to give her little girl a day filled with joy. But what Keianu didn't know was that someone else had their eyes on that money too. And the excitement she felt about her plans was about to be replaced with something far more sinister. February 22nd, 2018, began like any other day for 27-year-old Keianu. She was working her shift at the Dollar General store in Wilkinsburg, Pennsylvania. That afternoon, her grandmother, Linda Wilson, visited the store to deliver approximately $3,000 in cash, Keianu's income tax refund. After securing the cash in the manager's office during her shift, Keianu retrieved it along with her belongings as she prepared to leave. Surveillance footage captured her making purchases at the register, manned by her coworker, Leah Whitley, who had started just the day before. At approximately 2:36 p.m., Keianu exited the store and began her walk along Laketon Avenue, unaware of the lurking danger. As Keianu walked, a vehicle passed her and parked ahead on the sidewalk. An individual exited, pretending to address a car issue. As Keianu approached, another person emerged from the passenger side, wearing a ski mask, and rushed toward her. A struggle ensued over her purse. Despite her resistance, the assailant drew a handgun and fired 2 shots. The first missed. The second struck Keianu in the right hip. The attacker seized her purse and fled to the waiting vehicle, which sped away. Critically wounded, Keianu managed to crawl to the sidewalk, attempting to signal passing cars for help. Responding officers found her and rushed her to the hospital. Tragically, she was pronounced dead shortly after arrival, the gunshot having lacerated her right iliac artery. The community was left in shock, grappling with the senseless loss of a young mother whose dreams were brutally cut short. The question on everyone's mind was, who would do this? Keianu wasn't involved in anything dangerous. She was a hardworking mother, focused on her children and her future. This wasn't a random act of violence. Someone had been waiting for her. Someone knew exactly when she would be walking down that street, exactly what she was carrying. But how? As detectives combed through the crime scene and pieced together the final moments of Keianu's life, a chilling truth began to surface. This wasn't just a robbery. It was a setup, and the person who put it all in motion was much closer than anyone could have imagined. In the aftermath of the tragic shooting, detectives from the Allegheny County Police Department meticulously combed through the crime scene, gathering evidence and interviewing potential witnesses. The initial lack of clear leads made the task daunting, but the investigators remained resolute. A significant breakthrough came when surveillance footage from nearby establishments revealed a vehicle fleeing the scene shortly after the shooting. The car was identified as belonging to Keianu Scott, a 27-year-old resident with prior offenses. This discovery led to Scott's arrest, and under interrogation, he confessed to his involvement in the robbery attempt that resulted in Keianu's death. However, Scott's confession unveiled a more intricate plot. He implicated Dane Taylor, a known associate, as the individual who physically confronted Keianu and tragically pulled the trigger. Scott's statement suggested that the robbery was premeditated, with specific knowledge about Keianu's possession of a substantial sum of money. The detectives were now faced with unsettling questions. How did Scott and Taylor know about Keianu's cash? Was there someone else orchestrating events from the shadows? The investigation took a darker turn as they dug deeper, uncovering a betrayal that would shock the community to its core. It was the kind of betrayal no one saw coming, a betrayal that was completely unnecessary. Leah Whitley had only been working at Dollar General for a day when she found out something that caught her attention. Keianu had just gotten her tax refund. Money Keianu had already made plans for. But to Leah, it wasn't just money for Keianu, it was money up for grabs. Not long after, Leah picked up her phone and sent a text to Dane Taylor. It started off casual. "Guess what?" Taylor replied, "What?" And that's when Leah dropped the bombshell. "This girl in my job brought 7 bands to work. Ain't that some shit?" Taylor knew exactly what that meant. He thought she was talking about $7,000 instead of $3,000. But either way, it was a jackpot to him. A couple of hours later, at 12:48 p.m., Taylor texted her back. "It's a go. Delete all these texts." And Leah? She didn't hesitate. She texted back at 1:26 p.m., "They've been gone." But here's the thing. The texts weren't really gone. Investigators later recovered them, proving that what happened to Keianu wasn't some random attack. It was planned. It was targeted. It was personal. After getting the green light, Taylor reached out to Keianu Scott, pulling him into the plan. Phone records show that Taylor and Scott were in constant contact that day, making call after call as they figured out exactly what they were going to do. Scott agreed to drive the getaway car while Taylor carried out the robbery. And all of it, started with a text from someone she thought was just another coworker. With Scott and Taylor now in custody, the surveillance footage and phone records, investigators still needed to get Taylor to fully confess to Leah Whitley's involvement in the crime. Now, Taylor? He didn't even try to fight it. Once they had him, the whole thing came spilling out. How the robbery was planned, how it went down, and, most importantly, who set it all in motion. Leah Whitley. It wasn't just some vague accusation. Taylor's confession lined up with the text messages she sent him while she was standing right next to Keianu at work. She told him when Keianu had the money, when she was leaving, and exactly where to find her. She handed her over like it was nothing. So when police knocked on her door, she knew. There was no getting out of this. And when it all finally made it to court, Keianu's family had to sit through every heartbreaking detail. They had to listen to how she fought for her life, how she was left bleeding on the pavement over a few $1,000s, how the person who smiled in her face at work was the same one who signed her death warrant. One by one, they all went down. Taylor, the trigger man, took a plea deal and received 30 to 60 years. Whitley, who swore she never meant for this to happen, 20 to 50 years. And Scott, the getaway driver, well, he decided to take the case to trial. His gamble didn't pay off. He was found guilty and sentenced to life in prison. In the end, justice was served. But for Keianu's family, no prison sentence could undo what was done. Her 2 kids still had to grow up without their mother. Her grandmother, the one who handed her that tax refund, had to live with the what-ifs. Keianu Davis was supposed to buy a car that day. She was supposed to throw her daughter a birthday party. She was supposed to go home. But because of greed, betrayal, and pure heartlessness, she never got the chance. If this story moved you, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Make sure to like and subscribe so we can keep these stories alive, because victims like Keianu deserve to be remembered.